January 19th, 1944, 0512 hours. The Caledon Valley, western Burma. Somewhere between the river mist and a wall of teak so thick it swallows sound. The jungle is still dark enough that shapes don't have edges. Captain John Randall's hand rises once, 2 fingers, then a fist, and 40 men of the 7th Battalion, the Queen's Own Royal West Kent Regiment, freeze mid-step, like someone has pulled a cord through their spines. Boots sink a fraction into wet leaf rot. Lee Enfields tilt downward. Webbing creaks, then goes silent as every man forces his breathing to slow. Ahead, the trail pinches into a narrow cut between bamboo and a fallen tree, the kind of choke point you feel in your teeth. The air smells like crushed fern and wood smoke from a fire that's already been out for hours. Somewhere far off, a gibbon calls, then stops as if it's been slapped. Private Thomas "Tommy" Mercer, Scout, 1st Section, has been out in front since before first light. Not far, just enough that if the jungle opens its mouth, it swallows him first. Mercer's face is smeared with charcoal and sweat. His eyes are the only clean thing about him, and even they look dirty from lack of sleep. He holds up his hand, palm facing back, and his fingers slowly curl. Quiet signal for eyes front, danger. Not enemy near, not ambush, just danger. You can almost feel it, that pressure in the back of your skull when you're being watched. Behind him, Lance Corporal Alfie "Chalky" White shifts his Bren gun a millimeter. The metal makes no sound, but Mercer still flicks him a look like a warning. Even a whisper of movement can turn a jungle into a firing range. Captain Randall crawls forward on his elbows until he's close enough to see what Mercer sees. It isn't obvious at first, just more green, more vines, a tangle of branches and shadow. Then Randall catches it. A small clearing beyond the choke point, no bigger than a tennis court, where the undergrowth is oddly thin. Not natural, not for this valley. The ground is scuffed in a way that says boots have been there recently. Many boots, careful boots. And the trees at the far edge. There are cuts in the bark at shoulder height, faint but deliberate. Firing ports. Japanese marksmen. Randall doesn't need Mercer to tell him that. He's seen it before. Snipers who don't hunt like ordinary men. They wait like spiders. Mercer eases backward, inch by inch, until he's close enough for Randall to read his lips in the low light. 20, Mercer mouths. Randall blinks once. 20. Mercer points, not with a finger, but with the smallest tilt of his chin toward the far tree line. Then he points again, a different angle. Again. Again. Like he's counting invisible ghosts. The section behind them doesn't know the number yet. They only know Mercer's expression has gone flat, the way it does when a man is forcing panic down into his boots. Randall leans in, lips near Mercer's ear. How do you know? Mercer doesn't answer right away. He watches the tree line like it might twitch. When he finally speaks, his voice is barely air. Reflections, he whispers. Lenses. Metal. They're up there. That's the thing with snipers. Even when they hide perfectly, their equipment sometimes betrays them. A scope lens catches a hint of dawn. A bayonet flashes. A tin cup on a belt ring glints for a heartbeat. In Europe, it's sunlight on glass. In Burma, it's moisture and gloom, and a single pale thread of morning sliding through canopy gaps like a knife. Mercer has the eyes for it, always has. He grew up in South London, dodging bicycles and buses, reading movement in crowds. Here, he reads movement in leaves. Randall's mind moves through options fast, because indecision in the jungle is another way to die. They can pull back and go around, but around in Burma means hours of hacking through bamboo, exposing themselves, draining water, losing daylight. They can rush the clearing, but then the snipers will have what they want, targets funneled into a kill zone. Or they can try to outthink them. "Chalky," Randall breathes, just loud enough for the Bren gunner to hear. "Bren stays here. You cover the choke point. No firing unless I say." Chalky nods, eyes wide, jaw clenched so hard it looks painful. Randall turns to Sergeant William "Bill" Hargreaves, the platoon sergeant. Broad shoulders, mustache, the kind of man who seems carved from ration tins and stubbornness. Hargreaves crawls up and presses his face near the captain's. 20 snipers, Randall murmurs. Hargreaves doesn't flinch. He just exhales slowly through his nose. Bloody hell. Randall's finger taps the earth. We're not charging that. We're not retreating either. Hargreaves glances past Mercer into the choke point, then the clearing beyond. He can see it now, too, the wrongness of the undergrowth, the unnatural neatness. The jungle is never neat unless someone has made it that way. He whispers, "What's the play?" Randall looks at Mercer again. The scout's eyes keep tracking tiny details. He is listening to the leaves. Mercer's hand moves to his chest pocket. He doesn't pull anything yet, just touches the fabric as if confirming something is still there. "You got an idea?" Randall asks, almost in disbelief at himself for asking a private. Mercer swallows. His throat bobs. "Maybe." Randall studies him. In the half-light, Mercer's pupils look huge. "Say it." Mercer leans in. They're watching for movement through the choke point. They've got angles, but they also need light to see. Randall's mouth tightens. That's obvious. It's always about sight. Mercer continues. "If you give them the wrong light." Hargreaves' eyes narrow. "Wrong light?" Mercer's fingers finally slide into his pocket. He pulls out a small square of metal wrapped in cloth. He unwraps it carefully, like it's a wound. A broken piece of mirror. Not pristine, not fancy. A jagged, hand-sized shard scavenged from... where? A village? A crashed vehicle? A shaving kit? It doesn't matter. In Mercer's hand, it looks like a ridiculous thing to carry into the jungle. But when the first pale ray of dawn hits it, it throws a thin, bright line into the green, sharp as a blade. Randall's gaze flicks to it, then back to the tree line. He understands instantly why Mercer kept it. A mirror doesn't just reflect, it aims light. And a sniper, staring through a scope, is vulnerable to one thing above all, being blinded. Randall whispers, "You think you can catch their glass?" Mercer doesn't boast. He just nods once, tight and controlled. Sergeant Hargreaves looks doubtful, then thoughtful. Then, because he's been in Burma long enough to respect any trick that might keep his men alive, he leans closer. "What's the range?" Hargreaves asks. Mercer gestures subtly. 50 yards to the clearing. They're deeper, maybe 80, 100, depending. "And you want to..." "What?" Hargreaves whispers. "Flash 'em like a signal lamp?" Mercer shakes his head. Not one flash, not a signal. A sweep, a scatter, like sunlight on water. Randall's brain builds the picture. A sniper's eye is tight behind a scope, focused on a narrow slice of space. A sudden flare would not just blind, it would shock, make him flinch, break his aim, make him think he's been spotted, that there are more eyes than there are. In the jungle, hesitation is fatal. Randall glances back at the men, pressed into the earth. 40 faces, sweat, leeches, fear. The West Kents are tired. They've been moving for days, skirting Japanese patrol lines, trying to keep pressure off an exposed flank near the river. The Japanese in this valley are not a rumor. They're a presence. Disciplined, patient, cruelly clever. 20 snipers means someone expects them. Someone is waiting to peel them apart. Randall's voice drops even lower. You do this, and they'll fire. Even blind, they'll fire. Mercer's jaw tightens. Better wild shots than aimed. Randall holds his gaze. If you're wrong, Private, you'll get your head taken off. Mercer's eyes flick, just for a heartbeat, toward the choke point. If we go through like this, they'll take all our heads off. It's not insolence. It's math. Randall looks at Hargreaves. The sergeant gives the smallest nod. Let the lad try. But Randall is still a captain. He can't gamble on faith alone. He needs control. He needs a plan with teeth. He whispers orders down the line, each man passing the words mouth to ear like a secret that burns. No one fires. No one moves. Bren covers the choke point. 2 riflemen aim high, tree line. Watch for muzzle flashes. If they shoot, we mark positions. Only then do we return fire. A man somewhere behind them mutters a prayer under his breath. Someone else spits quietly, as if to clear fear from his mouth. Mercer crawls forward again, but not into the clearing. He angles to the left side of the choke point, where a thick root rises like a low wall. He presses his body against it and brings the mirror shard up near his face. You can see his hands trembling just slightly. Not cowardice, adrenaline. The body preparing for impact. He tilts the mirror toward the canopy gap where dawn is leaking in. The light catches. For a second, it's nothing, just a dull sheen. Then it becomes a line. Then a flare. Mercer shifts the angle a fraction, and the flare jumps. It skitters across leaves, dances on bamboo, splashes against the dark wall of trees beyond the clearing. Randall watches the far tree line, searching for reaction. The jungle remains still. Mercer sweeps again, slower, like he's painting the air. And then, there, a tiny involuntary movement in the shadows, the faintest twitch of a branch where no wind should be. A glint that wasn't there before, now there again, like an eye blinking. Mercer's sweep catches it. A bright spark flashes back, scope lens reflecting. In the same instant, a shot cracks through the clearing. The bullet snaps into the root above Mercer's head, spraying bark into his hair. Another shot follows, then another, not in a steady rhythm, but in jagged panic, men firing blind, guessing. Randall's heart slams. The sound is wrong in the jungle, too sharp, too close. Birds explode upward in a frantic black cloud. Somewhere, a man behind them gasps as a round smacks into the dirt near his elbow. Mercer flinches, but does not drop the mirror. He angles it again, higher, catching another glint. Another sniper fires. The shot goes wide, chopping leaves. Now the whole tree line seems to come alive with muzzle flashes, brief orange winks in the gloom. Not all at once, but enough. Enough to count. Hargreaves' voice is a hiss. There! Left fork, 2 men. Right, 3. Randall points, silent. 2 riflemen lift their sights, not to shoot yet, but to remember. To burn positions into their minds. Mercer keeps sweeping. The mirror's light is not one beam, it's chaos, broken, jagged, moving. Every time a sniper tries to recenter his scope, the flare jumps somewhere else. His eye is forced to chase it. His aim fractures. You can almost feel what it does to them. Those Japanese marksmen trained for stillness, for discipline, suddenly reduced to blinking, squinting, firing by instinct. Mercer's breathing turns fast. His shoulders rise and fall. Sweat beads on the bridge of his nose, and the mirror slips slightly. Another shot cracks. This one hits the root under the mirror, splintering wood. The shard jumps in Mercer's grip. For a moment, you think he's lost it. He clamps down harder, knuckles white, and drags the mirror's reflection across the tree line like a razor. The flare catches 3 separate glints in quick succession, like beads on a string. Randall whispers, "Now." Hargreaves relays it with a hand signal. Fire. Controlled. Tree line. The West Kents open up. Not a wild volley, but deliberate single shots. Marked positions. Muzzle flash memory. Each rifle cracks, then pauses. Cracks again. Chalky's Bren gun chatters in short bursts, stitching a line across a cluster of shadows where the snipers have revealed themselves. The Japanese fire back, but their shots are ragged, their timing broken. A bullet hits a tree trunk a foot from Randall's head, throwing a chunk of bark into his cheek. He doesn't even wipe it. He keeps his eyes on the clearing. Mercer is still sweeping, still shining. Then something changes. The firing from the tree line shifts, not random now, but coordinated, as if an officer or a veteran has regained control. Shots begin to bracket Mercer's position. The third crack is closer than the first 2. The fourth hits the root dead center, and the impact jolts Mercer's arm. Randall feels it in his gut. They're adjusting. They're learning the trick in real time. Hargreaves sees it too. He leans toward Randall, voice tight. They'll walk it in. They're not stupid. Mercer's mirror catches a final, hard flare off a scope, so bright it's like a knife stabbed into the jungle's eye. And then the tree line goes dead dark. No glints, no reflections. The snipers have adapted. They've shifted position, angled their scopes, covered lenses with cloth, sunk deeper into shadow. And now the mirror trick has done its first job, revealed them, but it has also announced Mercer as a threat. Randall's mind races. If Mercer stays, he dies. If they move forward, they enter a killing ground with snipers who now know exactly what they're up against. Randall opens his mouth to shout an order, but he stops himself. Sound carries. He instead grabs Mercer by the webbing and drags him backward a foot, hard. Mercer's mirror shard slips and clinks against his rifle sling. Tiny sound, but in the sudden lull, it feels loud as a bell. From the tree line, a single shot cracks, different from the rest, slower, placed. The bullet punches into the root exactly where Mercer's head was a second ago. Randall's eyes widen. That wasn't panic fire. That was a man who has decided, I'm killing the one with the mirror. Randall locks eyes with Mercer. They've got you, he breathes. Mercer's face is pale under the grime. He swallows and looks back toward the clearing, toward the invisible eyes. Then, very carefully, he reaches into his pouch again. Not for another mirror shard. For something else, something wrapped in cloth, longer, curved. Randall's brow furrows. What's that? Mercer unwraps it just enough for the first sliver of dawn to touch its surface. It's a polished metal mess tin lid, scuffed but reflective, bigger than the mirror, broader, less precise. Mercer whispers, almost to himself, "One mirror's a target." He looks at Randall, and in his eyes there's a sudden, dangerous clarity. 20 mirrors, he says, is a storm. Randall doesn't answer right away. He just stares at the mess tin lid in Mercer's hands, dull silver, bent at the rim, smeared with someone else's old tea stains, trying to imagine it doing anything other than reflecting a tired face. Another carefully placed round smacks into the root, close enough that grit peppers Randall's lips. The Japanese sniper isn't guessing anymore. He's measuring. Sergeant Hargreaves inches forward until his mouth is near Randall's ear. "Sir, we can't sit here. They'll pin us and call in a patrol." Randall's eyes stay on the tree line. His cheek is warm where bark tore it. He can feel blood mixing with sweat. The clearing ahead looks innocent now, no flashes, no movement, only a quiet that feels staged, like a theater after the curtain falls. Mercer keeps the lid low, hidden. "They can't shoot what they can't pick out," he whispers. Randall's mind clicks through the kit list, what each man carries, what can shine. Mess tins, shaving mirrors, compasses, even the steel of a bayonet if you angle it. In peacetime, you polish metal because you're bored. In Burma, you keep it dull so it doesn't betray you. But now, Mercer is proposing the opposite. Make it betray you on purpose, in every direction, all at once. "Chalky," Randall hisses back without turning. "How many mess tins in the section?" Chalky's voice is tight. "Most of us, sir." Randall's gaze flicks to Hargreaves. "Tell them, quietly. Anyone with a reflective surface, tin lid, mirror, compass, gets it out. No clinking, no chatter. If you drop it, don't reach for it." Hargreaves hesitates. "You want them shining themselves up like bloody Christmas decorations?" Randall's jaw flexes. "I want 20 snipers to lose their sight and their nerve at the same time." Hargreaves nods once, grim, and begins sliding backward along the line, passing the instruction like contraband. Mercer watches him go, then leans close to Randall. "It needs timing. They'll duck if it's just one, sir. But if it's a storm," Randall finishes. Mercer nods. "All at once. Then we move." "Where?" Randall asks. Mercer points, not at the clearing, but at its far left edge, where a low ridge of earth rises like a shoulder. "There's a fold. If we can get 5 men across, they can enfilade the tree line from the side. Snipers hate side angles." Randall studies it. Mercer's right. The ridge would break the sniper's neat geometry. But the first men across will be running through open ground, and open ground in Burma is a death sentence written in slow ink. Randall turns to Hargreaves as he returns. "Who's got their kit out?" Hargreaves whispers, 18, maybe 19. One lad's tin's gone black with soot. Won't throw much." Randall's eyes flick to Mercer. "You're leading the first movement?" Mercer shakes his head immediately. "No, sir. If I move, they'll follow me. Let someone else run first. Someone they haven't decided is the problem." Randall hates the logic because it's good. He hates it because it's what war does. It makes you assign value to one man's life over another's, then pretend you didn't. He chooses quickly anyway. "Corporal Dennis Shaw." Shaw, a lanky corporal with a scar down his neck from a jungle thorn, crawls up. His pupils are wide, and he smells faintly of iodine and damp cloth. He listens as Randall whispers the plan. Flash, move, 5 men to the fold, Bren covers, rifles pick muzzle flashes. Shaw doesn't argue. He just nods like a man who has already accepted what the first step might cost him. Randall brings everyone into the rhythm with hand signals. Fists closed, palms down. Then 1 finger raised, wait. 2 fingers, ready. 3 fingers, now. The jungle breathes. It's not poetic. You can hear it. Wet leaves shifting, distant insects, the subtle drip of water off vines. Somewhere, a leech inches along a man's wrist, and he doesn't dare flick it away. Randall watches the tree line for any hint they've been overheard, but the snipers remain invisible. They are saving their shots for certainty. Randall lowers his voice to a whisper aimed at the men closest, knowing it will ripple outward in fragments. When you lift your tins, do not wave. Tilt slow. Let the light skate. Then hold it. Don't stare at it. Keep your eyes on the trees. You can almost feel the fear in their hands. A mirror isn't a weapon. A tin lid isn't courage. And yet every man begins to work his way free of habit, free of the instinct to hide anything that shines. A private named Ian Jock McBride, Scottish, freckles under grime, pulls out a compass and turns it so the glass catches the faint dawn. His lips move silently, counting, praying, as if he can anchor himself with numbers. Another man lifts a shaving mirror from his breast pocket. It's cracked down the middle. He looks at it for half a second, sees his own eye staring back, and then quickly angles it away like he's seen a ghost. Randall crouches low behind the root with Mercer and Shaw. The mirror shard and mess tin lid are in Mercer's hands now, stacked like cards. He's already thought of the angles. "On my mark," Randall breathes. He raises his hand. One finger. The men tighten. 2 fingers. Metal edges rise from mud like strange flowers. Randall's heartbeat seems louder than the jungle. He imagines the snipers beyond the clearing. Japanese soldiers, faces smeared, rifles braced into forks of branches, cheeks pressed to stocks, eyes behind scopes. He imagines their discipline, their patience. He imagines them telling themselves they can wait forever. 3 fingers. Every reflective surface tilts at once. The clearing erupts with light. Not a single flare, dozens of broken shards of dawn, scattered and moving. Tin lids catch the sky and throw it forward. Mirrors toss thin blades of brightness across trunks and leaves. Compass glass spits little hard sparks. For a fraction of a second, it's beautiful, like sun on a river. Then it becomes violent. From the far tree line, the first shots crack almost instantly, reflexive, furious. Snipers fire into the glittering chaos, aiming at the brightest points. But the brightest points aren't men. They're lies. A round punches into a tin lid and flips it out of a private's hand like a coin slapped off a table. Another hits the dirt, spitting mud into a man's eyes. Someone grunts, sharp, as bark splinters into his shoulder. But the main effect is exactly what Mercer predicted. The sniper's sight collapses. They can't hold a sight picture. They can't track a single target. Every time they adjust, another flare blooms in their scope, washing their reticle in white. "Go!" Randall hisses. Corporal Shaw launches first, low and fast, moving like a man running under a ceiling that's about to fall. 4 men follow him in a staggered line, each keeping distance so one burst won't cut them all down. They sprint into the clearing with their bodies folded forward, rifles held close, tin lids in their off hands still tilted to throw light ahead. You can almost feel the exposure, open ground, nowhere to disappear, the way your skin tightens as if the air itself has teeth. Shots chase them. Chalky opens up with a controlled burst, not spraying randomly, but hammering the tree line where muzzle flashes have been seen. The Bren's chatter is steady, confident, a mechanical snarl that forces heads down even if it doesn't hit. Randall points to the next group, another 5. They run. Tin lids up, mirrors flashing, light skating, bullets snapping. One man stumbles, catches himself, keeps going. Mercer stays near Randall, still behind the root. He is working the mirror shard like an artist, sending quick, hard flares to any point where he suspects a scope is trying to peek again. He doesn't just blind, he herds their attention. But the Japanese adapt again. You can hear it in the pattern of shots. Fewer reflex cracks, more deliberate pairs. They begin aiming not at the brightest reflections, but at the men moving between them. A runner named Private Eddie Collins, round-faced, barely 20, takes a round through the upper arm. He doesn't scream. He spins, shocked, then drops to a knee, clutching his bicep as blood darkens his sleeve fast. He's in the open. Randall's stomach drops. If they leave him, he dies. If they go for him, more die. Mercer sees it too. His breath catches. Randall's hand rises, signaling someone to hold position. He looks to Hargreaves, who is already moving, because sergeants do that. They move before permission, because they know permission is sometimes too slow. 1. Hargreaves grabs a tin lid from the nearest man and shoves it into his own left hand. He yanks Collins's webbing strap with his right and starts dragging him backward, low, using the lid to throw glare toward the tree line. The snipers fire at the lid. 2 rounds ring off it, sharp metallic pings that feel obscene in the jungle, like hitting a church bell during a funeral. The lid dents. Hargreaves flinches, but doesn't stop. He drags Collins behind the root in a gritty heave and slams him into cover. Collins's face has gone white. His lips tremble. He tries to speak, but only breath comes out. Randall presses his mouth close. Pressure on it. Keep pressure. You hear me? Collins nods frantically, eyes fixed on nothing. A new sound threads through the firefight. A whistle, faint at first, then clearer. Japanese voices, sharp and urgent, calling from deeper in the jungle. Not snipers now. Something else. Randall feels the shift before he sees it. The sniper fire is beginning to taper, not because they're beaten, but because they're making space for another move. A flanking patrol. A rush. A bayonet charge through the undergrowth. Japanese infantry are terrifying at close range in this country, fast and silent until they're suddenly in your breath. Mercer's eyes flick left and right. They're going to move, he whispers. Randall watches the tree line and catches a shape, low, fast, cutting between trunks. Not up in branches, not prone in a hide, on the ground. A runner. A messenger, or the beginning of an assault. Shaw! Randall shouts, just loud enough to carry over the bren. Can you see left? From the fold, Shaw's voice returns, strained. Aye, movement. They're shifting. Randall's mind locks onto the new problem. The mirror storm worked, but it also forced the enemy to change the fight. And if the Japanese choose to close distance, mirrors won't save anyone. He looks at Mercer. Your trick bought us a minute. Mercer's face is tight, almost angry. Then we spend it. Randall nods. How? Mercer's eyes drop to the mess tin lid again, then to the men, then to the canopy above the clearing where dawn is growing brighter, cutting more angles through leaves. He whispers, not just to blind them. Randall leans closer. Mercer continues, voice quick now, ideas spilling in the same rhythm as gunfire. We make them shoot at light, while the real men move somewhere else. We put the shine where we aren't. Randall stares at him. Decoys? Mercer nods. Tins on sticks, mirrors on vines. Anything that moves just enough. Let them waste rounds. Let them reveal themselves again. Hargreaves, listening, exhales a harsh laugh without humor. You want to fish with bloody mess tins. Mercer meets his eyes. You want to get out of here alive, Sarge? Hargreaves' laughter dies. He nods once. Right. Randall raises his hand and signals for silence and attention. He speaks in tight bursts, making each word count. 2 men cut saplings. Quick. Make forks. Fix tins and mirrors to them. We'll raise them at the choke point and along the right. Bren keeps hammering. Shaw, you push from the fold. Side fire. Keep their heads down. Shaw's reply is immediate. Understood. Men begin working like machines. A kukri flashes. One of the Gurkha attached to their column, Rifleman WWII, steps forward without being asked. His blade bites into a sapling with a wet chop. Another chop. The sapling falls silently into a man's hands. Rai's face is calm, eyes unreadable. He works fast, efficient, as if this is just another day in a hard world. The decoys take shape in seconds. Tin lids strapped with cloth strips, mirrors tied with bootlaces, a compass glinting at the end of a thin green stick. Randall watches the tree line as the first decoy rises slowly over the root. Instant reaction. 3 cracks, nearly simultaneous. Bullets punch through the tin lid, tearing it free. The stick jerks and drops. Again, Randall murmurs. Another decoy rises, this one wobbling slightly as if it's a nervous hand. More shots. Muzzle flashes wink. The West Kents answer with precise rifle fire, memorizing positions as they go. And then, in the confusion, Randall sees what Mercer wanted. The snipers are firing at objects. Their discipline is being turned against them. They can't ignore a target. Trained eyes and trained fingers do what they've always done. Shoot, confirm, shoot again. Meanwhile, the real movement happens low, in the mud, beneath the glare. Hargreaves gestures to a small group. They begin to crawl, not run, along the right edge of the choke point where undergrowth is thicker, using the decoy chaos as cover. Their bodies slide forward like shadows, rifles cradled, faces pressed close to earth. Randall turns to Mercer. "You're coming with me." Mercer's lips part, surprised. "Sir," Randall cuts him off. "They want you dead. That means you're valuable. Stay where I can see you." Mercer nods once, swallowing whatever else he was going to say. They begin to move, slow, deliberate, using the root as cover, then a fallen log, then a shallow depression filled with cold black water that soaks their sleeves. Leeches cling instantly, and you can feel the revulsion, but no one stops. Shots continue to snap overhead, but now they're less certain. The Japanese are trying to relocate targets that don't hold still, trying to interpret a battlefield made of glare and lies. Then a new sound slams into the moment like a door kicked open. A high, sharp bugle call, Japanese infantry signal, close enough that it raises gooseflesh along Randall's arms. Hargreaves' eyes widen. They're coming in. Randall looks toward the tree line and sees movement now. Not just one runner, but several shapes, low and fast, using the base of trees like stepping stones. The snipers have done their job. Now the assault troops are moving to finish it. Mercer grips his mirror shard so hard his knuckles blanch. His voice is almost a whisper. "If they get within grenade range?" Randall's mouth goes dry. Their Mills bombs are limited. Their ammo is limited. Their bodies are exhausted. And in the jungle, close combat isn't heroic. It's sudden, personal, and messy. Randall raises his hand, signaling Shaw and the men on the fold, but before he can send the next order, a flare of light, brighter than any mirror, blooms behind the Japanese tree line. Not sunlight, not reflection. A fuse. A grenade about to pop. Randall's eyes lock on it, mind racing. Is it theirs? Is it Japanese? Is it aimed at the fold? At the choke point? At Mercer? The fuse hisses like an angry insect, and the object arcs upward through a gap in the leaves, spinning end over end, coming toward the clearing. The grenade turns slowly as it climbs, a dark oval with a thin tail of sparks. For a heartbeat, it looks almost gentle, like a firefly drifting up out of the undergrowth. Then gravity bites. Captain Randall tracks it with the cold clarity that comes right before impact. He sees where it's going, toward the root line, toward the knot of men and decoys, toward the very cover that has kept them alive. He doesn't shout. Sound in the jungle is a beacon. Instead, he snaps his hand down, hard, flat palm, the urgent signal for down, now. Men collapse into mud and leaf rot. Helmets thump softly. Someone's mess tin lid slips and rings once, a tiny metallic note that feels like sacrilege. Private Mercer reacts differently. He flinches at first. Then his eyes flick up to the canopy gap where the grenade's arc is framed against pale dawn. His mind seems to run a separate track from fear. He raises the mirror shard, not toward the snipers, toward the grenade. Randall's breath catches. "Mercer, don't!" But Mercer is already tilting, already catching the dawn beam with instinctive precision. The shard throws a tight, bright line of light into the air. It strikes the grenade's body for a fraction of a second. A pointless gesture, you'd think. Light can't stop steel. Except the grenade isn't the only thing in the air. Behind it, in the tree line, a Japanese soldier's eyes follow the throw, checking the arc, checking where it will land. A habit, a confirmation. The mirror's flare hits his vision through gaps in leaves. There's a small jerk in the shadows, someone flinching, involuntary, and the thrower's follow-up movement hesitates. A second grenade, already in a hand, is delayed. It's a tiny effect, but in close combat, tiny effects decide who gets to breathe again. The first grenade drops fast now, sparks trailing. Randall feels time compress. His body wants to crawl away, but there's no away, only mud, roots, and the clearing's edge. The grenade hits the ground with a soft, wet thud. Not among them. Short. It lands in the leaf litter just beyond the choke point, closer to the clearing's center than the root line, close enough to kill if it's a Mills bomb or a Type 97, but not perfectly placed. Randall realizes why. The thrower misjudged distance in the glare and chaos. The mirror storm, the decoys, the Bren bursts, his eyes and brain got fed bad information. "Cover!" Hargreaves hisses, already pressing his helmet into the earth. The grenade detonates with a hard, concussive crack that thumps your chest. Dirt and chopped leaves leap into the air like a curtain being snapped. Fragments hiss through bamboo and slap into trunks. Something, twig, shard, shrapnel, whips past Randall's ear with a sound like a wasp. A man yelps once, sharp, then clamps his mouth shut to keep from making more noise. Randall lifts his head a fraction. The clearing is now a haze of disturbed smoke and floating leaf dust, and the light coming through it turns the air into a pale soup. And in that soup, movement becomes harder to read, which is exactly what the Japanese assault troops want. Randall sees it first as a ripple, undergrowth bending in a line, then the flash of a steel helmet, then the quick, low run of men in khaki green moving along the far edge, using trees like stepping stones. They are coming in, not a full charge, not shouting. They move with discipline, in little bursts, rifles low, bayonets fixed, or blades ready. Their snipers have transitioned from hunters to shepherds, guiding the West Kents into the jaws. Randall's mouth goes dry. "They're closing," he murmurs. Mercer's voice is tight. "We can't outshoot them if they're inside 40 yards. Randall knows. At that distance, it becomes grenades, knives, and panic. It becomes who hesitates first. He looks to Chalky. The Bren gunner is sweating hard, eyes bright, fingers ready on the trigger, but his barrel is already warming. The Bren is a lifeline, until it jams, until it overheats, until you run low on magazines. Randall makes a choice that tastes like metal. "Shaw!" he shouts toward the fold, louder now because the fight has already announced them. "Suppress the left! Keep them down!" Shaw's answer comes with rifle cracks from the fold. Clean shots, side angle, exactly what snipers hate. Two Japanese shapes duck behind a tree. One stumbles, disappears. Randall turns to Hargreaves. "Fix bayonets." It's an old order, almost ceremonial, but in Burma it's practical. It changes a rifle from a distance tool into something you can use when a man is close enough to smell. Blades slide onto lugs with soft clicks. You can hear the tiny sounds if you listen, metal on metal, cloth shifting, men breathing through their teeth. Mercer doesn't fix a bayonet. His hands are busy. He's tying something. Randall sees it. Mercer has taken two tin lids and lashed them to a branch with bootlace, setting them at angles like crude wings. "What are you doing?" Randall snaps. Mercer's eyes never leave the tree line. "Making them look where I want." He lifts the contraption an inch and lets the dawn catch it. Two hard flares jump toward the Japanese approach line. Instantly, a crack, then another. The lids ring as rounds strike, one punching through, the other denting deep. Mercer lowers it, adjusts the angle, raises again, like a puppeteer making a puppet dance. Each time the Japanese fire gives away position. Each time, the West Kents answer with controlled shots, not to win a firefight, but to slow the closing line. Randall feels a grudging admiration and a cold fear. Mercer is weaponizing attention, but he is also gambling with seconds. A Japanese NCO, Randall can almost picture him, lean, decisive, realizes the trick. The firing shifts again. Instead of shooting at the glare, they begin shooting at the ground line where a man would be holding it. One round bites into the root near Mercer's elbow. Mercer jerks, teeth clenched. Randall grabs his collar and drags him down. "Enough! You'll get yourself killed." Mercer's chest heaves. "If I stop, they see us." "They already see us," Randall growls. "Now we live anyway." Another grenade fuse hisses from the far side. This one arcs higher. Better throw. More confident. Randall's brain screams, "They're correcting. They're learning the range." He points. "Incoming!" Men flatten again. The grenade drops toward the fold where Shaw's team is holding the left. From the fold, Shaw shouts something, half warning, half curse. Then there's frantic movement as men try to roll away without exposing themselves to sniper angles. The grenade detonates behind the fold with a brutal slap of sound. Dirt geysers. A man cries out, long and raw, the sound of someone who has forgotten to be quiet. Randall winces. That cry will draw everything. Japanese voices rise, short commands, urgent. You can hear boots now, more clearly, the wet slap of soles on mud. "They're rushing the fold," Hargreaves says, eyes wide. Randall sees it. 2, 3 Japanese infantry break from cover and sprint toward Shaw's position, using the smoke and noise as a screen. Bayonets glint. A short sword flashes, an officer's gunto or an NCO's blade, carried with confidence. Shaw's side fire is about to be overrun. If the fold falls, the West Kents lose their flank angle and the snipers regain control. The whole mirror storm collapses into a pinned group at the choke point. Exactly the scenario that ends with bodies and silence. Randall doesn't hesitate. "2 men with me," he barks, then catches himself and lowers his voice. "Hargreaves, 2. Mercer, stay down." Mercer grabs his sleeve. "Sir, let me—" Randall's eyes harden. That's an order. Mercer's grip loosens reluctantly, frustration burning behind his eyes. Randall and Hargreaves pick 2 riflemen, McBride and White, Because they're closest, and because their faces still show focus instead of shock. They crawl along the depression line, using every dip and root, moving toward the fold at an angle that keeps them out of the sniper's cleanest lanes. Shots snap overhead. One smacks into a tree trunk, showering them in wet bark. Another hits the mud close enough that droplets sting Randall's cheek. They keep going. When they reach the fold's edge, the scene is suddenly close and ugly. Shaw is crouched behind the ridge, reloading with shaking hands. One of his men is down, curled around his leg, blood darkening the fabric. Another is firing point blank into undergrowth, the muzzle flash lighting his face like a camera flash. And beyond the fold, 3 Japanese infantry are only yards away, moving fast, using the rise to mask their approach. One is already raising a grenade, thumb on the fuse. Randall's voice becomes a whip. Now! He pops up just enough to fire. One shot. The nearest Japanese soldier jerks and drops, the grenade slipping from his hand. It lands without detonating, fuse not struck. Hargreaves fires too. A second Japanese soldier ducks, then lunges forward anyway, bayonet leading. McBride and White add shots in quick succession. The rushing man stumbles, falls into the leaf rot, then tries to crawl, stubborn as an insect. The third Japanese soldier, the one with the sword, doesn't stop. He vaults the fold like a cat, landing inside the British position. For a split second, time slows. You can see his face, young, tight with determination, eyes wide and bright. He raises the blade. Hargreaves meets him with a roar that is half anger, half fear. The sergeant slams his rifle forward, bayonet first. Steel meets flesh with a sick, soft resistance. The Japanese soldier grunts, staggered, and swings anyway. His blade catches Hargreaves' shoulder strap, slicing webbing and cloth. It's not a clean cut. It's messy. The strap snaps. Randall lunges and drives the butt of his rifle into the man's jaw. Teeth click. The soldier collapses, blade sliding from his hand into the mud. For a moment, there is silence except for breathing, ragged, animal. Then Shaw looks up at Randall, eyes blazing. "They're coming again, sir." Randall follows his gaze past the fold. More movement. Not 3 this time. A line of men, maybe a squad, using the smoke and shadows, closing in a stagger, rifles ready. And behind them, higher up in the trees, a fresh glint. A sniper has repositioned to watch the fold directly, and now he has a clean angle on anyone who stands. Randall feels the trap tightening. The Japanese have shifted the kill zone from the clearing to the fold. They're compressing space, forcing the West Kents into a pocket. Mercer's mirror trick bought time. Now the enemy is buying it back with blood. Randall's mind flashes to the one asset they haven't used yet: smoke. But smoke in a jungle is a double-edged thing. It hides you until the enemy uses it to walk right into you. Randall turns, shouting back toward the choke point, "Smoke, now!" A British Mills bomb smoke grenade, one of the last, flies from behind the root, arcing toward the clearing. It lands and begins to spit thick white smoke that crawls low across the ground, mixing with leaf dust. The world starts to disappear. Shapes blur, distances lie. In the whitening haze, Randall hears a new sound. A faint, high metallic rattle, like something being shaken. He looks down and sees it, half buried in mud near the fallen Japanese soldier's hand. A small metal cylinder with a pull ring. Not British, Japanese. A Type 97 grenade. And it's already been struck. The fuse sizzles softly, almost delicate, as the smoke thickens and hides it from everyone else's eyes. Randall's blood turns cold. He opens his mouth to warn them, but the smoke eats his words, and the jungle swallows the sound. Randall doesn't shout. He can't. Not because he's afraid of giving away position, the fight is already screaming, but because his lungs lock for a half-beat as his mind calculates the fuse. Japanese Type 97. Strike and throw. Short delay. His eyes flick from the grenade to Hargreaves' boots, to Shaw's crouched knee, to McBride's hand on his rifle. Everyone is packed inside the fold, bodies overlapping in a space barely wide enough for 4 men to breathe. If it pops here, it won't need to be accurate. It will be enough. Randall drops his rifle, reaches down with both hands, and grabs the grenade. It's slick with mud and someone's blood. He can't tell whose. The metal is cold, despite the fuse's hiss. For a fraction of a second, he feels the absurdity, holding death like a tin of biscuits. He yanks it free and hurls it over the fold, high and hard, into the smoke-choked clearing. "Down!" he barks, finally letting volume rip through the haze. They flatten instinctively. The grenade detonates out there, swallowed by the smoke. The blast is muffled, but the shock still hits like a fist against the ribs. Bits of leaf and dirt patter down. A splinter cracks against Randall's helmet. Hargreaves exhales, a harsh sound that might be a laugh if it wasn't full of nausea. "Jesus!" Randall doesn't answer. He's already listening. Because the smoke is thick now, crawling and billowing in slow waves. It turns the jungle into a room with no walls, and every sound becomes intimate. Boots, breath, the clack of a bolt, a whispered order. In the whiteout, the mirror trick is irrelevant. No light can find eyes if there's no line of sight. That should be a relief. It isn't. "Shaw," Randall says, low. "Where are they?" Shaw's voice comes from somewhere close, but direction is hard now. "Can't see, sir. I can hear them." Randall strains. The Japanese infantry are moving, soft, fast steps, careful. He hears a faint rustle as a man brushes bamboo, then the unmistakable click of a rifle safety. They're using the smoke to close. Hargreaves leans close, mustache damp. If they get inside, it's bayonets and teeth. Randall nods once. He feels sweat running down his spine, cold against skin. The smoke smells sharp, chemical, mixed with damp rot. A figure appears in the haze at the fold's edge, too sudden, too close. McBride reacts on instinct, thrusting his bayonet forward. The figure jerks back with a muffled curse. British voice. "Hold your bloody fire!" It's white, chalky white, face smeared, eyes wild. He's lost the choke point line and stumbled into the fold. For a second, Randall is relieved. Then he remembers what that means. The choke point is undermanned. The Bren is still back there, but if the line has collapsed in smoke, the Japanese might already be threading through the gap. Randall grabs White's sleeve. "Where's the Bren?" White coughs, hacking smoke. "Still firing. Then it jammed. We're clearing it." Randall's stomach tightens. A jammed Bren at the worst possible moment is a nightmare that's killed good men. Randall doesn't answer Mercer right away. The jungle has that post-blast hush again, smoke thinning, leaves drifting down, the aftertaste of cordite and crushed green. Men are moving backward in pairs toward the stream bed, boots sucking at mud. The Bren coughs in short bursts, then goes quiet, then coughs again, like a heart that refuses to quit. Corporal Dennis Shaw lies face down at the fold, one hand still half raised as if he's trying to grab the air he lost. The sight hits Randall harder than any bullet. Shaw wasn't a name on a roster. He was a voice, a grin, a man who ran first when the clearing tried to kill them. and somewhere in the tree line, a sniper is calm enough to take a throat shot through smoke. Mercer edges closer, mirror shard wrapped in cloth, his eyes narrowed behind that crude visor. He's trembling now, not fear, not exactly. It's the strain of being the one man holding a strange advantage in a place built to erase advantages. "Sir," Mercer says again, voice scraped raw. "I can find him." Randall looks at him, really looks, and sees the cost. Mercer has been the brightest spark on a battlefield where brightness gets you murdered. The Japanese have already learned his trick, stolen it, thrown it back. Yet Mercer's mind is still moving, still hunting for angles. Randall thinks of responsibility, of how many men are still breathing behind him, of how thin the line is between clever and dead. He also thinks of Shaw. "Show me," Randall says. Mercer nods once, tight. He crawls forward, not toward the fold itself, but to a shallow depression where smoke still hangs like low cloud over the ground. Dawn is stronger now. Pale light spears through the canopy in narrow shafts and catches the haze so it glows. Mercer tilts the mirror shard not at the sun, not at the tree line, at the smoke layer, the way you might skim a stone across water. The shard sends a thin, wandering ribbon of brightness sliding across the white. It looks harmless, but Randall understands. Any scope glass, any eye behind it, will react to that moving flare. A blink, a flinch, a tiny adjustment. And Mercer isn't looking for a full reveal. He's looking for a mistake. The ribbon of light drifts, drifts, then jumps as Mercer changes angle by a hair. There, on the far right edge of the tree line, something answers. Not a muzzle flash, not a movement you'd spot on patrol. A pinprick glint once, then gone. Mercer freezes, holding the angle like a man holding his breath underwater. He adjusts again, smaller. The ribbon shifts. The glint returns, this time a fraction longer. Randall feels his pulse hammer. Where? Mercer doesn't point with a finger. He points with the mirror itself, holding the shard so the line of reflected light stops just short of the spot, like a marker. "Tree with the split trunk," he whispers. 2 yards left of it. Low platform. He's not high. He's crouched. Hargreaves crawls in beside them, face drawn, shoulder webbing torn, blood seeping through cloth. He follows Mercer's cue, squints through smoke. "I see nothing," Hargreaves murmurs. "You will," Mercer says, and tilts again. The glint pops back, almost annoyed, like the sniper's lens has been tapped. Hargreaves' eyes widen. "There! Bloody hell!" Randall's rifle comes up. He doesn't fire yet. He signals, 2 fingers, quietly to the best shot remaining near him, a corporal with steady hands. Corporal Arthur Keene, known in the battalion for putting rounds where he intends, even when his body's shaking. Keene crawls in, cheek to stock, breath controlled. Randall whispers into his ear, "On the 3rd glint." Keene doesn't speak. He just nods once. Mercer begins the sweep again, slow, patient, the way a fisherman draws a line taut. The ribbon slides, searching. Glint 1. Quick. Glint 2. Slightly longer. Keene's finger tightens. The rifle is utterly still. Glint 3. Sharp and bright, the sniper's scope betraying him for a heartbeat as he tries to reacquire the withdrawing line. Keene fires. The shot cracks and is swallowed by smoke. For a second, nothing happens. Then, near the split trunk, a dark shape collapses from low cover into the leaf rot, as if the jungle itself has decided to exhale a body. No return fire follows. No answering crack. No calm, placed round. Just the jungle, breathing again. Randall's throat tightens. It doesn't bring Shaw back. It doesn't erase the fold or the whiteout or the dead man's stare. But it changes one thing. The sniper who thought he could kill them one by one has been forced to blink. And blinking, in this country, is sometimes the whole war. Hargreaves grips Randall's sleeve. "Sir, move, before they adjust again." Randall nods. He looks at Mercer. Mercer looks back, eyes red, visor cloth damp with sweat and smoke. He doesn't smile. He doesn't celebrate. He just tucks the mirror shard away, like a tool returned to a pocket after a job. They pull back into the undergrowth, toward the stream bed where the ground dips and sound changes. Behind them, the smoke thins, and the clearing returns to being just a clearing. Mud, broken leaves, bent tin, cracked mirrors, and a lesson written in glare. Later, much later, men will talk about Burma as if it was only terrain, only climate, only strategy. But the ones who were there will remember something smaller. A jagged shard of mirror, a mess tin lid, and a moment when a scout taught an entire platoon that light could be a weapon, and that in jungle warfare, the difference between hunted and hunter might be no bigger than a glint.